Hello everyone. Today myself Vijendra Mishra and my friend Amit Chawla are here to talk about an old but again a very relevant topic, which is web application security. So in this state of pandemic, this has become more relevant, and out there lots of folks are waiting to encash this situation by exploiting our apps and vulnerabilities present in them on different levels. So, Amit, why don't we check out some data of past few quarters for all the security attacks and what impact this has created for brands who faced these attacks?
Yeah, sure, Vijendra. From past few quarters, most of the security attack has happened on the technology and government sectors mainly. And some of the entities and GTI report revealed that this attack volume has increased by 70% now, and out of which 43% of the breaches happened against just the web applications, which is almost double from the last year.
Yeah,
That means there are new types of attacks happening with the newer introduction of technology and cloud services being used, such as SaaS, PaaS, FaaS, right? Vijendra, why don't we discuss more about some recent major security breaches happen around the world?
yeah, that's a good idea, Amit. And few years back, Sony faced such massive breach in its PlayStation network that where around 77 million users actually got affected, and their PII data like purchase history, login details, emails, etc. got stolen. So as you pointed out in the previous slide, this breach was related to cloud setup, which was lacking the adequate security and PCI compliance requirements. Impact of this breach was so massive that Sony share fall by 2%, which impacted them not just monetary, but also impacted the brand value as well.
That's interesting. And also, there is one more security breach that I want to discuss happened with a hospitality giant, right? Which involves a loss of again a PI data like the addresses, phone numbers, and loyalty information for almost 5.2 million guests were impacted in that. And here it's just not their brand value got impacted, but they have also faced a massive penalty of $123 million by European authorities. As per
Okay.
CSO online report, this attack has happened via remote access Trojan using malformed data query, though they didn't disclose it, but it happened. Now, let's look at the top 10 threats for 2020 by OWASP.
Yep, sure.
So, OWASP has published top 10 threats for this year, which includes some of the major types of threats like XSS injection, broken authentication, broken access control, security misconfigurations. These are not any new types of threats. These are from years and since inception of the web technology. And nowadays, the surface of these attacks are more exposed to a lot of new services integration getting introduced in our web applications. And we are not following the best practices. Basically, web developers and DevOps engineers are not following those best practices.
Yeah, definitely. And earlier applications were having very lesser available surface areas for tags, like for example, database, your CDN, your server, cookies. These were some previous surfaces, but now there are some new surfaces also got added, and they are more distributed. For example, our npm packages, containers, and cloud services, and of course your code base as well, right? So, looking at so many surfaces and kind of threats we are dealing in current time, we must change the way actually security gets prioritization in development cycle. That means we must think from security perspective bit early in development, which
Yeah.
means we have to move towards shift left approach. And this shift left mindset applies to other NFRs as well. We must integrate security controls in CI/CD tools, and even before that, at the time of development in form of audits at code level as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Vijendra. And also, we should check out this attached graphics from one of the study done by Oracle and KPMG, which shows that only 10%, 12% of the organization participated in this survey has incorporated the security controls in their DevOps processes, where 33% of the participants are just thinking about it, where 28% have their future plans and only 2% have incorporated shift left practices in a very limited fashion, which is quite a big chunk, right? That means 88% of the people are just thinking about it, or just they have their future plans, right? So to adapt this shift left approach, we need to change the mindset and processes to start following best practices, just not for only the security, but other areas like performance, accessibility, etc. Some of the areas in the security where we need to focus more are nowadays like cloud services, NPM packages, our Node.js development, and the Docker containers.
Yeah, definitely, and when we say like, let's start with, cloud services and cloud security. So nowadays, we are using many cloud services like PaaS, SaaS, and FaaS. And due to not following the adequate security compliance, many vulnerabilities are getting exposed, like data breaches, accounts are being hijacked. We are seeing hackers attacking the application and servers because of insecure application interfaces being exposed and insecure access management policies not enforced by developers and DevOps. And you won't believe,
Absolutely
Amit,
true.
yeah, and even as per the study of Oracle and KPMG survey report says 92% of cloud services consumers, lacks in security readiness, whereas 59% has already been paged due to low cloud credentials, and 87% participants believe that having artificial intelligence as a must-have for security controls. So we can definitely, this data definitely shows, where actually the mindset is going and where, we need a change. So let's look at the few best practices to follow here. Amit, what's your thought?
Yeah, Vijendra, you're absolutely right, and the reports also shows the those stats, right? I have few quite in my mind that I have seen many developers to just log in through the same message to the end users or the endpoint in the API, right? Which is not a good practice because it gives the attacker the information about the underlying technologies and tool set being used, which will ease them for their attacks. So we should not send the actual system error messages in the API endpoint. We can log them in our server logs for the further debugging.
Yeah, sure. And what about, most of the projects use sensitive information like password, keys, signatures as a part of source code environment variable files, right? So we should not add those, just add them as a placeholder in environment files, and probably we can replace them at runtime from the build system. And those build systems only admin should have access with a private network key only.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. So even I have seen many developers that they are storing the object and data coming directly to the logs for their debugging purposes, right? Which can contain a sensitive information or other PII data information like the phone numbers, the credit card informations, etc. Right? Which can cause a big data breach and a legal actions towards a company. So we need to make sure that there is some type of sanitization being happening over the inputs to the log. And also, it is a shared responsibility of a cloud service provider and an application development team to provide a proper security measures. For example, we should create proper VPCs and subnets for our application network, and we should not expose every port and information to other applications, right? Always we should add security groups, and we should restrict the critical operations for an IP access or multi-factor authentication, such as deleting a file or removing a user. And we not, at the last, we should lock down all the unused ports.
Yeah, so this is about cloud, Amit, but I want to go more closer towards coding and check for vulnerabilities there. Let's say NPM packages, right? So with newer introduction of packages every day in NPM registry, and this has created a new surface for attacks. And packages with malicious code can result in significant damage in production. Although NPM registry do regular audits on these packages and their dynamic and static analysis for any vulnerabilities, probably we run npm audits on our code base, as we as well as we can see that audits are highlighting vulnerabilities in packages such as prototype pollution, command injection, etc. So let's understand what is actually these vulnerabilities are. So probably let's look into the prototype pollution, right? So prototype pollution, what exactly is in JavaScript? We know that prototype defines an object's structure and property. But it turns out if someone modifies the prototype in one place, it will affect how the object works throughout the entire application. So as a best practice, you might not be doing it, but what if some third-party packages, modifying it? So this is, my friend, is prototype pollution. We recently found similar vulnerability in very popular NPM package named Minimist. It was parsing an argument incorrectly, which was exposing this vulnerability. As part of remediation, we updated the latest version of Minimist. And, I encourage actually every developer to take these audits very seriously, as it can lead to DOS attacks as well. What about the practices to avoid such vulnerabilities? Do you have something on your mind, Amit?
Yeah. So we should do regular audits of our NPM packages, and it should be a part of our CI pipeline. So for the same, we can use enterprise tools like Black Duck. We should also commit and enforce usage of log files such as package log JSON and yarn log. We can
Yep.
also minimize attack surface by disabling the execution of any third party package scripts, like
Yep.
via ignore script flag to your command line or in our npm rc file. We should use local npm proxy, which serves many purposes for us. It enables a layer of separation between our organization and an outside JavaScript world by
Yeah.
enforcing some security policies in standard licensing compliance via security scanning on that proxy layer that help us reduce this risk. Last but not the least, we should avoid publishing any secrets to the NPM registry. Let's talk more about the development time security guidelines to be followed for Node.js.
Yeah, sure. And web attacks explode these days as security comes to the front of the stage. Looking at the vulnerable areas like DOS or XSS attacks, query injection, and probably HTML and JS inputs, this become more important to follow some guidelines to reduce this attack surface. Let's look at some of the best practices which we can utilize here as well. We should run our process with a non-root user. The reason is that with root user is having all the capabilities to create, modify, delete files, and having OS specific permissions, which open an easy way in for attackers to serve server resources. Always use
Absolutely.
ORM, ODM that take care of user inputs, and never use the string template directly, which opens a wide spectrum of vulnerability attacks. So secure headers are, must have for Node.js application. We can use very effective libraries like Helmet for the same, which is a de facto solution these days. And, using these security headers is also good because, sometimes we need to, let's say, we are having some headers like X powered by. So that's a very common header which generally comes in every application, but definitely it can give a fair idea about what application or what framework you are using actually. Apart from these, probably avoiding storing passwords and secrets in plain text format. Using a secure hash is actually a good idea so that it is not even visible directly to developers or DBA, which can lead to data breach. So we should put a rate limit to the public APIs. I have seen people are using multiple IP DDoS brute force attacks. It can save your origin server via using this approach. Here also, reverse proxy can help us to add a limit on the payload request because it is easier for hackers to add the bring down the server, especially single threaded ones, with a bigger size payload in the request. This can achieve via express middleware or probably with some reverse proxy would be better.
Yeah, those are very nice best practices, Vijendra. Another area where new types of vulnerabilities are happening nowadays are Docker images and their containers, right? So according to Snook's State of Open Source Security Report 2020, topmost 10 popular Docker images like Ubuntu is having at least 30 vulnerabilities in it, right? As soon as you pull a Docker image such as Node, you are introducing a full-blown operating system into your application that is known to have 642 vulnerabilities in its system. So for these, we can avoid we can avoid these attacks due to these vulnerabilities by following few of the best practices into the Docker's images and containers. Like we should prefer minimal images. for our bundle that is necessary to run our project only. This also helps in minimizing the attack surface for attackers and ensuring that we ship a secure OS to our customer.
Yes.
We must use the user directive in our Docker file to ensure that container runs with the application with the least privilege access possible user. It's compared to that non-root user, right? We should add a user which is having the least privilege access possible. We should sign and verify our Docker images that secure us from man-in-the-middle attack. We should not blindly recursive copy, which could end up copying sensitive files as well, right? And we should use the copy command instead of add, so that to avoid risk of zip bombs and zip slip vulnerabilities that could then be triggered automatically like a virus. We can use Twistlock as a container image scanner and a Fortify as a static code analyzer for containers we are using in our projects right now. And if you want to go for a open source solution, Anchor and Dagda are the de facto solutions to be added in your CI/CD pipelines nowadays.
Yeah, actually, Amit, that's a very great insight about knowing all these enterprise and open source tools, right? And this is actually very helpful. So these are some of the approaches, we can take in different areas to reduce the attacks on our web application. And we should focus more on promoting shift left mindset across industry. Reports already suggesting that industry already planning to or moving towards it. So thanks for giving us time to listen our thoughts. We are hoping this will help all of you to take security related decisions in daily development workflow.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Hope it will be helpful for you guys. See you.
Yep. Thank you.